Assalamu alaikum. If you got invited to a wedding this summer and you want to make sure that you show up looking good, that you lose weight, and that you feel and look good going in instead of going in and having all the uncles and aunties saying that you gained weight, all that other stuff, all the stuff that you want to avoid that's probably happened in the past, then this is a video for you, inshallah, because I'm going to show you how to get yourself in showstopper shape to where all the uncles and aunties are asking you how you got in good shape, and then you could just refer them to me and ultimately help us to spread this to the uncles and aunties who truly need it most for their health. But most importantly, I want to teach you how to keep that weight off long term while hitting an aggressive short-term goal. No BS, all science, and I'm going to motivate you today. So I'm going to hook it up, inshallah, today. I've actually got, as usual, a detailed presentation, but I'm trying to make it not as overly long as my last video because I got some complaints that 2 hours of value is too much value for most people to handle. So I'm going to try to keep this one under 1 hour of value, but we'll see how I do, inshallah. So how do you get in shape for a summer wedding? So summer's coming up, which is typically wedding season. I mean, there's weddings all time of year, but especially summer. And I've had a lot of people asking me, how do you actually get in shape for your wedding or for your sibling or cousin's wedding, whatever it may be. And so these same strategies work whether it's your wedding or whether it's somebody else's. So again, you've probably done, wedding prep or tried to lose weight before a wedding before. Maybe you didn't get the results that you wanted and you felt embarrassed when the uncles and aunties said you gained weight and looked fat. Definitely had that happen before I had figured this stuff out. Especially if you put in hard work to where you were really putting in the work but you still felt frustrated. That's very frustrating, right? Now, sometimes you'll get results and everybody's like, oh, great, you lost weight, mashallah, all that stuff, but you feel so tired and miserable. And at the wedding itself, you end up eating so much that you gain 5 to 10 pounds back. And during the prep, you felt so miserable because you had to cut out everything that you loved. You had a lot of cravings. You hated your life. And obviously that doesn't impact your work, your mood, your family, or your deen in a positive way if you have no energy and you're in a negative, ungrateful state and you're constantly experiencing negative emotions and misery as a result of these very strict protocols. And then, of course, like I said, you gain a little bit of the weight back on the wedding itself, and then you just continue to gain back all the weight in the months afterwards and more, and felt like you just kind of wasted your time and money doing a bunch of stuff and energy doing a bunch of stuff that didn't work. Okay? There's a chance maybe you've tried this for years and you've never seen success long term. So let's go into a better way how to do this so that ultimately your whole family is excited by the fact that you've gotten the results that you wanted, and they're like, wow, you lost so much weight, mashallah. And like I said, when they ask you what you did, you can refer them to me, inshallah, and you feel accomplished because your hard work paid off, right? And what else does that open up? You start to see that you can set and achieve goals and reach your full potential in every area of life. You start to feel more confident. You start to feel really good about yourself. You start to feel like you really respect yourself for being so successful, mashallah. It's all by the will of Allah at doing this, right? And Allah put this video in front of you so you could learn this stuff. So hopefully you can see some success, inshallah. So of course, we are going to have to be disciplined with nutrition. This is a video. So if you're just coming here looking for a lazy way to get in shape and you just want to be lazy, I have other videos that teach you how to baby step yourself into fitness if you're like super anti-fitness right now and you've never done anything before. But this video is for people who have actively been trying and actively been working out for a while, who really just want to get on not a strict protocol, but a protocol that's going to work, that is also sustainable, and also so they can obviously transition off wedding prep and maintain that weight loss long term. So you don't just get results for the wedding, but you keep off the weight long term, inshallah. And either way, you still get a cheat meal every single week. You'll still lose an average of 2 to 3 pounds a week, and I'll go through the statistics on who can expect that, and as well as the percentage of people who can expect more and those who can expect less, right? But 2 to 3 pounds a week, 3 months, that's 24 to 36 pounds of fat that we can get you to lose from your frame on average, which also, like I said, depends on your starting point. And you're actually going to feel good the whole time. If anything, you're going to feel better than you feel right now because you have more energy from the nutritional protocol we put you on that actually works for your metabolism and with your metabolism, as opposed to working against your metabolism, which is part of why people crash during and then gain the weight back after one of these restrictive diets that people try. And of course, because you feel good, it has a positive impact on your work, your family, and your deen, your life, everything, right? And like I said, we maintain it. I've said that a couple times because it's very important. You maintain it with ease after the wedding for years to come, okay? For decades, for the rest of your life, inshallah. Like, lose the fat and keep it off forever. That's the goal always, right? So what's the point in doing something if it's not going to work long term? So there are 4 very simple pillars of the fat loss process that we're going to go through today. And then the way that we achieve these pillars is ultimately what makes it sustainable or not. So the first pillar of fat loss is, of course, nutrition. If your nutrition is not consistent, you're not hitting the proper nutrients for fat loss and or muscle growth, then nothing else you do will truly get you lean and in the shape that you want to be in. You cannot outtrain a bad diet. So you can work out 5 hours a day, but if you're eating donuts and Twinkies and curry and ice cream all day, you're still not going to look good, right? But if you follow a perfect diet, and even if you don't train 100% perfect, you will get results. You may not have the physique you want, but ultimately, at least diet is taking care of a big chunk of what we need to actually lose weight. Now, the thing that determines whether or not you look good after you lose the weight and whether you'll be able to keep it off and even the efficiency at which you lose the weight in the first place is going to be resistance training. Okay, so if you aren't building muscle, you're not maintaining muscle, and you're just kind of saying, I've never tried resistance training before, maybe once or twice a week, but I've never really done anything, blah, blah, blah. You're missing out on the metabolism boosting effects that you're going to gain from having muscle on your frame. And also, because you've built muscle, you're going to look good underneath. Because if you don't build muscle and maintain muscle during a fat loss phase, even if you do lose all the fat, you're not going to look nearly as good, ripped, or toned underneath it. Okay, so whether you're going to try to look ripped like most men are, where you want to have abs, or whether you're just trying to look toned like most women, right? Or in all cases, wanting to get rid of the belly and the love handles and all that stuff, even if you do achieve, enough fat loss where you would have otherwise looked that way, you're not going to look as good underneath because you don't have that toned, lean, good-looking muscle underneath. And a lot of people are actually going to end up looking like a smaller version of the same shape that they're in right now, even after losing 20, 30, 40, or even 50 plus pounds, because a lot of people actually lose muscle if they don't do resistance training during a fat loss phase. And so then that sucks, because if you lose muscle, then part of the weight that you lost isn't just fat, it's also muscle. And that is part of what leads to a lot of people who have done weight loss in the past just looking like a smaller version of the same shape they're in right now, even after a transformation, which again is why people still have a belly, even after losing a significant amount of weight, okay? Even like people who have lost 20, 30, 40, or even 50 plus pounds who didn't even start that heavy to begin with, still have a belly at the end because they never built muscle and they never actually built their physique, okay? So that's pillar number 2. Now, pillar number 3 is cardio and or step count, okay? So this is very important. Now, does everybody have to do cardio? No, absolutely not. But it is extremely helpful. And if you want to guarantee that you lose weight, then we do need to be consistent with your activity levels. So if like Monday through Friday, you're up on your feet, you're working, you're hitting like 10, 20,000 steps a day, maybe you have some manual labor job, or maybe you're a doctor running up and down the hospital, but on the weekends you get 0 steps whatsoever, you're just laying in bed, you're burning significantly less calories on the weekend, especially if you end up eating more on the weekend, which a lot of people do as well, especially when people who don't have a sustainable diet plan and who are overburning themselves out during the week. You're just going to end up, taking one step forward, one step back on the weekend, and you'll never see any progress. So we do need to be consistent with our activity levels, and we need to be proactive about that if we want to lose weight at a realistic but steady and fast enough pace to get a significant transformation by the time of the wedding. And I'm going to go through what's a realistic amount of weight loss to expect in like any given time frame based on your starting point and based on like different percentage distributions based on our clients who we've worked with and working with many different metabolisms, body types, genetics, everything. But that's very important. Now, to maintain the weight loss, it is good to maintain an active lifestyle. And for a lot of people, even to lose the weight, even just doing a 10-minute walk after every meal, which is a great strategy from Stan Efferding's book, The Vertical Diet, is enough to get 30 minutes of cardio a day, which is great. 30 minutes of walking. If you want to do more than that, even better, right? Or even just a 20-minute walk after your last meal a day, whatever it may be, some way to get your steps in. These are simple strategies, and we'll go through all of them today. But for maintenance, likewise, it doesn't take a whole lot, but some people do need to do a significant amount of cardio if they want to lose weight at a fast enough pace. But at the same time, I'm not talking about doing hours and hours of cardio because that's not realistic. It's not sustainable. And it is very hard to transition off of it if you're doing an excessive amount of cardio, which is why I typically try to keep cardio to a minimum while still making sure we're hitting enough steps that we're losing weight at, a significant pace. So I would say, 6K per day is a minimum step count. 8 to 10K per day is better. 10 to 15K is great. 15K plus might be a little excessive, but if it's sustainable for you and your body's not used to it, it will greatly accelerate your results as long as it's sustainable, which for majority of people it's not, to where, usually 8 to 10K is realistic. And for the people who really struggle with their schedule, 6K is kind of, the more realistic target for somebody who's truly serious about losing weight, but maybe works 80 plus hours a week, right? And has like 5, 6 kids. Because we do have clients who have 4, 6 kids, all kinds of crazy stuff. I am blanking on any specifics who have 5, but I can think of one individual right now who has 6 kids and a bunch of my clients who have 4 kids, a couple of them who have 3, many who have 2, many who have 1. So again, and some who have no kids, right? And so if you don't have any kids, even better, especially if you're trying to look really good for the wedding and potentially get married, inshallah, if you're single, right? Even more motivation. We'll dive into motivation later, which leads into pillar number 4, which is consistency. And this pillar accounts for like a couple different things, right? There's a sustainability aspect, which is, hey, can we actually realistically sustain this? Because like if I tell you have to eat 6 meals a day, which isn't even like objectively optimal, even if you could do it, it's not gonna be realistic for the majority of people, okay? But if I tell you, hey, we'll do 3 meals a day, just like what you're doing now. Oh, you only eat 2 meals a day. Okay, we can get it done with 2, or maybe we can up to 3, or 2 meals and a snack, or 3 meals, or 3 meals and a snack, or 4 meals. Something that's kind of more similar to what you're currently doing. but we obviously fix the foods that you're eating, but we make sure that there's still foods that you enjoy, which is point number 2, enjoyability in addition to sustainability, then it becomes realistic. So 6 bland meals a day is neither sustainable nor enjoyable. 3 flavorful meals a day, boom, sustainable and enjoyable from both a lifestyle and a personal preferences perspective, and therefore it's going to work infinitely better because you're actually going to be able to stick to it, right? And then also within the pillar of consistency, we got to talk about internal, external accountability. So like for instance, if you're just, not following through on anything, even though it's not that hard to stick to, and you have, your excuses and your desire to eat curry and donuts is greater than your desire to look good for the wedding, then, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, I don't know why you're still watching this video, and you probably aren't. So I'm probably just preaching to the choir here. You got to have sufficient core drivers and internal motivators in addition to having a system that's sustainable, realistic, and enjoyable. And that's what we're going to cover in depth actually today at the end, after we've gone through all the technical aspects of the training, because I want to go through like the actual strategy, like, nuts and bolts, so to speak, of how this whole thing works. And then we could talk about motivation, because that's very important. It's just as important, if not more important, so you actually follow through. So let's first get you guys clear on realistic expectations, and then also kind of my experience, because I gotta say, I can absolutely relate with you if you've ever done restrictive diets that left you feeling tired and miserable, or that caused you to lose strength and muscle, where you just felt destroyed and useless all day because you were just so tired, right? I have a client who described that as her past situation, where she's like, oh, on that diet, I felt absolutely useless all day. She's from the UK, so that's how they talk over there. So for my UK viewers, you certainly probably talk like that as well. But I've done diets that have messed with my metabolism and slowed my metabolism down. The term messed up my metabolism is a little bit dramatic, and most people don't have a completely ruined metabolism, but certainly we can experience some damage or slowing to our metabolism, which is usually only 10 to 15%, but that's a solid 200, 300 calories a day that we're not burning, which could be the difference between losing, it's a difference of losing about half a pound of fat a week, which over the course of 10 weeks is 5 pound difference, right? So, if we can speed up your metabolism, you can lose 5 more pounds over a 10-week period than you would if we didn't speed up your metabolism, and you can do it more easily, and usually, in most cases, eating more food and having more energy. And we'll talk about how those pieces all fit together today, because obviously there are a lot of nuances to that beyond what would fit inside of, a shorter description. So we are going to go a little in depth today without it being 2 hours like the last video. So, and certainly with these diets where my cardio was excessive, my working out was excessive, and my food was excessively low, my energy levels were, infinitely worse than they would have been otherwise, versus when you do this the right way, your energy levels should actually improve. And with it, if your energy levels are good, you're going to be able to focus better at work, perform better at work. You feel more motivated to stick to it because it's giving you other benefits in other areas of every area of your life, okay? But if it's negatively impacting all other areas of your life because you feel like junk all day, you feel useless all day, to use the UK phrasing, and your energy levels suck, and you can't focus at work, you're even struggling to focus in your prayers and concentrate in your prayers, you're all like moody and cranky with your family and snappy with them, to where at some point it becomes like a relationship issue that you got to come off this diet. Otherwise it's going to cause problems in your relationship or relationships with your kids, your family, whatever it may be. Then obviously we got to use an approach that makes you feel better, to where it actually improves your relationships. And of course, I talked about I lost my motivation, I lost my drive when I was doing, these overly restrictive diets like keto. I always hated keto. It's terrible for my energy levels personally. I mean, there was a point where I got like keto adapted and I felt good for a period of time, but I would always get so angry when the family would make like carbs, because I'd be like, that smells so good and I want it so bad and the crunch sounds so good, but I can't have it and I'm so mad. How dare you make that? And I felt so entitled. I mean, it was just terrible, right? So that's one of the many reasons why I absolutely hate keto. And I will do a video specifically on why keto is the worst diet ever. I'll teach you how to get results that will actually last a long time on keto, because you can do that, and we've successfully done that. But for the vast majority of our clients, we don't touch anything that resembles keto, other than maybe sahur. For some people, works very well for controlling hunger. But point being, a lot of these restrictive approaches result in a lot of food cravings and a lot of negative things. And of course, the worst part about all of that was, if you are in a bad mood, disrespecting your family, being entitled and arrogant and cranky and low energy and can't focus all day long, it negatively impacts your deen. And that's infinitely worse than even it negatively impacting more worldly things like how much money you make because you don't have any energy. My goal here is that you're getting paid to get fit, because your energy levels are better, your confidence is better, you're showing up as a better and more disciplined, more high energy focused version of yourself to work, and you're making more money, and you're like, hey, you know what? It's the best thing I ever did was get in shape. Alhamdulillah, everybody should get in shape. And then you tell your family to get in shape, and then you send them all to me as well. So anyways, I want to help you avoid these mistakes, because I don't want you to go through the same issues that I went through. Plus, teaching this stuff is good for these IG clips, and it also helps me to reinforce my knowledge and helps me to avoid making the same mistakes if I'm doing like a contest prep or I'm doing a photo shoot shred where I'm getting down to like 6, 7, 8% body fat, and I fall into a little bit of dieting delirium because sometimes, even if we're on like a solid, nutrition plan, sometimes we might overdo it, or sometimes we might have a bad day, and sometimes we're feeling extra stressed out, and this can cause us to make some bad judgment calls to try to speed up our results or to try to get away with eating something off the plan or whatever it may be, but we ignore the facts in front of us, and we end up sabotaging ourselves and really feeling frustrated about it. So this helps me to avoid this in myself when I do contest prep, because I'm human like anybody else, and I'm subject to having a bad day or having stress from work or whatever it may be, or from family, and likewise, so are you. In addition to the fact that you're probably not a fitness expert if you're watching this, and so therefore you're even more subject to, falling off doing things the right way, which is why today I'm going to teach you how to do things the right way, as well as what I do in all my other content. Alhamdulillah. So let's dive into, because speaking of facts and expectations, what is a realistic target to actually lose weight? So a realistic target to safely lose weight, because anybody can, lose a drastic amount of weight and do it in an unhealthy way. Like if you chop off an arm, that's what, 10, 20 pounds, but why would you ever chop off your arm? That's ridiculous, right? So likewise, why would you ever eat 200 calories a day and do 5 hours of cardio a day? That's also ridiculous. Now, of course, some people do have eating disorders, and I recommend seeing a specialist for those more specific eating disorders such as anorexia, bulimia, etc. But in the case of just somebody who goes a little too hard when it comes to weight loss because they're so desperate to lose a certain amount of weight by a wedding, let's talk about what's realistic to do in a safe, healthy, and sustainable, enjoyable way, as we've talked about at length thus far. So your realistic target is to lose 0.5 to 1.5% of your body weight per week, okay? This would be considered healthy weight loss, and it's very, very easy to achieve this in a sustainable and enjoyable way with foods that you like that are also filling, so you don't experience hunger, cravings, or any of the other stuff. You can even fit in some sweets and cheats, sweets and cheat meals and crunchy, salty foods. I mean, you can get plenty of salty, savory foods because, most of my recipes are savory and salty, and we even have some sweets recipes. So what does that translate to, right? Well, if you weigh 200 pounds, then you can realistically lose 1 to 3 pounds per week. So 0.5 times 200 is 1 pound. 1.5 percent times 200 is 3 pounds. Okay, so 1 to 3 pounds a week. And 1 is the worst case scenario, but typically with my clients who start around 200 pounds, we're losing 2 to 3 pounds a week, even if you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, even 60s and 70s. We've had clients lose weight at a rate of 0.5 to 1.5% of their body weight per week. Okay. Now, let's say that you're 300 pounds and you're watching this right now. You could actually realistically lose anywhere from 1.5 to 4.5 pounds per week. And I've even had people in the 300s lose like 30 plus pounds in a single month. Obviously, their first month, not every month 30 pounds, because then they'd lose 100 pounds in like 4 months. But David Goggins did it, right? But David Goggins is David Goggins, and he did 2 hours a day of cardio and ate a ridiculously restrictive diet. The dude's also got good genetics, but I'm not taking away from his mindset and his intensity because he had to work for it. But the dude also is genetically blessed, mashallah. But he's also willing to run on broken bones. But we can't compare ourselves to David Goggins. Mashallah, Allah has blessed him. And, all praise is due to Allah for creating such an inspirational figure. He's a little vulgar, so maybe don't watch his stuff if you are trying to avoid listening to any profanity. However, he is a very motivational guy. So anyways, if you're 300 pounds, you can lose about 1.5 to 4.5 pounds a week. If you weigh 150 pounds, you can lose about 0.75 to 2.25 pounds per week. This is what I typically see with 80% of clients is the expected rate of weight loss, right? So that's why I say in all of my guarantees, you can lose up to 20 to 30 pounds in 90 days, because that is what 80% of people see for the typical client. But of course, sometimes we get people who weigh 120 pounds. Sometimes we get people who want to gain muscle to where they don't want to lose fat at all. Sometimes we get people who are, 300 plus pounds who can lose weight much faster than that. And sometimes we get people who fall out of that 80% distribution who either lose weight faster or who lose weight a little bit slower, especially people who have like PCOS, hypothyroidism. I actually have a guy with hypothyroidism who is losing weight at this fast of a pace, and we've had other people with the, both PCOS and hypothyroidism who have lost weight at the typical rate or faster, because there's always anomalies, but actually those ones are pretty common, especially with hypothyroidism, because there's a lot of things we can do that can potentially improve that. But anyways, point being, these are the realistic rates of weight loss. So yes, if you're 200 pounds, you can lose about 2 to 3 pounds a week. So again, 80% of our clients lose 2 to 3 pounds a week if they start 200 pounds. If you follow the same strategies that we use with them, which I'll be covering today, inshallah, that's how much you can lose. 10% of you who are watching this right now can lose weight faster than that, and 10% of you who are watching this right now, on average, are going to lose weight slower than that, assuming you're starting at 200 pounds. And how does the math work out on this? So here's where we're going to get a little bit dense with the information, but I'm going to try to make it fun for you so I can keep you engaged as you listen to or watch this video. So each pound of fat is roughly 3,500 calories. I almost said 3,500 pounds. Each pound of 1 pound of fat is 3,500 calories of stored energy. If we want to lose 1 pound of fat, aka 3,500 calories of stored energy, then we need to be in a 3,500 calorie deficit for the entire week. Okay? Now, before all the people who say that calories don't count, calories are an invention of science, blah, blah, blah. I mean, well, calories are something that was scientifically discovered, and a calorie is just a measure of a unit of energy that is required to produce heat. Okay, so it's just a measure of a unit of energy. That's all a calorie is, and those calories are stored in foods. For instance, a gram of fat is 9 calories per gram. A gram of protein is 4 calories per gram, which some of those calories actually get utilized in the processing of protein, which is why a high protein diet can be a great way to feel full and satiated, but still be in a significant calorie deficit and lose weight fast and maintain your muscle mass, which is great, right? Each gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories. So a calorie is just a unit of energy. And so again, my strategy is not to go overly restricted in calories. Certainly, we're not eating an insane amount of food, but a lot of our clients actually say, wow, I'm surprised I can eat this much food and lose this much weight, because we are using, good tasting, but also nutritionally dense, but calorically not dense foods, which allow you to eat a good volume of food without going over on your calories. Therefore, you lose weight more efficiently without being hungry. But we also focus on increasing your metabolism, getting you burning more calories through a variety of different easy to implement strategies, which thusly allows you to lose weight even if you're not on a restrictive, overly low calorie diet. So if you want to lose 2 pounds of fat per week, if you need to be in a 3,500 calorie deficit per week to lose a pound of fat a week, you have to be in a 7,000 calorie deficit per week to lose 2 pounds of fat per week. Okay. Now, so 7,000 per week divided by 7 days a week is 1,000 calories. We need to be in a deficit per day to lose 2 pounds of fat per week. Now, sometimes weight loss can actually exceed this rate, and sometimes it can be slower than this rate, even if we're losing that much fat, because we also have to account for muscle gain, for water weight. Now, you can lose fat about 5 to 10 times faster than you can gain muscle tissue, okay? But sometimes we gain lean mass because we gain, water retention within the muscle. We gain glycogen storage in the muscle. So we're gaining lean mass. We're looking bigger. We're looking more muscular. Again, for men, that happens a lot faster because women usually, it's hard for a woman to get bulky. Usually she's just going to get toned and look really nice. But ultimately, the point is, if we lose a lot of water weight in addition to losing a lot of fat, we could actually lose more weight on the scale than how much fat we're actually losing. But the reality is some of it is water weight. And likewise, we can lose a certain amount of fat, but if we gain muscle throughout the process, then we also may not see a whole lot of difference on the scale, even though our clothes fit way better and we look better, like we're losing weight from the face, from the belly, all that stuff. And this is why I highly recommend, and actually I make this mandatory for my clients, to get their waist size with their body weight, because body weight doesn't tell the whole story. I want to see their waist size. But even so, sometimes you lose fat from your arms, your face, all that other stuff, where you're not losing it from your belly, because sometimes for a lot of people, especially those with high stress, high cortisol levels, the belly is the last place to lose the fat, or one of the slowest places, or you might, lose a couple inches from your belly, but then you hit a plateau because your body starts pulling fat storage from your legs and elsewhere before it goes back to the belly. So you might lose the first 10 pounds and lose like 2 inches from your waist. Then the next 10 pounds, you don't lose anything from your waist, even though you're losing fat from everywhere else. And then the next 10 pounds, you lose another inch or 2 from your waist because your body is pulling fat stores from multiple different areas, okay? And your body, mashallah, is very intelligent. SubhanAllah, Allah has created us in a very beautiful way in many ways. So this is why your body is very smart in where it burns the fat. And we just need to make sure that the strategies we're implementing work with the body instead of against the body. So anyways, I like to shoot for 1,000 calorie deficit because this is realistic as long as we don't eat below basal metabolic rate, which I'm going to talk about. And this will allow you to lose 24 pounds of fat in addition to whatever water you lose or muscle you gain or whatever it may be in 12 weeks. And sometimes people will lose more weight than this because, again, thermic effect of food, how quickly somebody's metabolism can ramp up, especially as we gain muscle. These things are all relevant, as I said on one of the previous slides. But yeah, if you lose 24 pounds in 12 weeks, that's just under 3 months. That's 84 days. So 7 days a week times 12 weeks. You could lose 24 pounds even if you're just losing 2 pounds a week. And if you lose 3 pounds a week, that's 36 pounds in 12 weeks, which is under 90 days. So that's how the math works out. And it's pretty simple as long as we can stay in a deficit and do it in a sustainable way that we can actually enjoy. We enjoy the food, we have enough variety, and the exercise is not so excessive or unrealistic for our schedule, and neither are the meals, right? And same thing with the meal prep. We got to be strategic in how we approach everything, and we got to make sure that you have the right internal and external accountability systems to ensure that you are successful and you don't make, dumb mistakes that are going to set you back, and that you don't just, fall off, right? So these are all important parameters to keep in mind when it comes to a successful weight loss transformation. Again, the internal, the external, the strategy, everything comes together. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how they all come together, inshallah. So as I briefly mentioned, some people, due to the thermic effect of food, due to the fact that the metabolism ramps up pretty quickly, especially with a lot of the strategies that we use here inside of the modern Muslim method, will actually lose weight more than the projected deficit and what you see on paper. And of course, some will have a more stubborn metabolism and lose a little bit less. And you've probably noticed this for yourself. Maybe you've done, weight loss protocols in the past or programs in the past and you lost weight fast, or maybe you lost the weight slow, again, when you did these programs or diets or whatever else it may be in the past. And so as long as you didn't severely damage your metabolism at any point when you did one of these previous diets, which you might have, or you didn't lose a significant amount of muscle when you previously did a diet, if you've lost weight faster in the past, you'll probably lose it faster than average again if you were already somebody who lost weight faster than average compared to other people on the same protocol or program you did before. Now, if you lost weight slow before, there's a high chance that you'll probably lose weight slow again. However, if you've never used the right protocols to speed up your metabolism, you might be somebody who every time you've ever lost weight in the past, you lost it slow. But this time, because you do it the right way, you actually lose weight a lot faster. So if you've never done strength training, proper macros, or any other protocols that we use in this video and all my other videos that we use with our clients to optimize your metabolism, you might actually lose weight really surprisingly fast, even though your weight loss was always slow in the past. And everybody is different. Again, subhanAllah, Allah's created us all different, and we all have different histories, different stuff we've tried in the past, okay? So just wanted to, more thoroughly than I intended, but you know me, I can't not be thorough. I have to be thorough. Go through all of that, okay? So hopefully you guys are all still with me. So if you need to be in a 7,000 calorie deficit per week, how do you do that without feeling tired, hungry, miserable, craving food, or feeling super stressed that you have to track calories all the time? Well, very simple. If you're doing this on your own, you do have to track calories for the first few weeks until you build the habits and you now know how to eyeball the foods and you've gotten results. You've proven yourself, okay, if I eat this amount, I know that this is going to lead to results. And you start to develop a gut instinct and feel for what works with your body. Now, of course, if you work with a good coach, then what we do is we set up the meal plan for you and you just let us know what needs to be adjusted, how you're eating. Obviously, on the front end, what you typically eat and what foods you're accustomed to eating and what you enjoy, what you couldn't do without, right? And what specific issues you're experiencing. And we'll be able to then tailor a proper meal plan for you. And if along the way you feel tired or hungry or crave certain foods, an experienced coach will know how to adjust your plan to keep the results coming, but fix those energy issues or hunger issues or libido issues. Actually happen sometimes because sometimes when people go excessively low in calories, their body tries to conserve energy by suppressing their sex hormones, such as testosterone, which can have other effects when it comes to performance, libido, desire, and that can negatively affect your relationship with your wife. Or if you're single, it can be helpful for avoiding sin. So, that's part of why the Prophet ﷺ recommended that, those who are single and cannot afford to get married, fast on Mondays and Thursdays, or who for any reason can't get married just yet, fast on Mondays and Thursdays because it does suppress your desire, but it also builds self-control. SubhanAllah, there's a lot of benefits. All of the sunnah and advice from our Prophet ﷺ has so much wisdom, multi-layered beyond anything that we could even fathom, that we're still discovering new layers each day to the benefits of following the sunnah. So that's ultimately, the benefit to a lot of stuff. And I do talk about portion control quite a bit too, because that is a hadith and a sunnah. And if that's a habit you can build, then it also becomes easier to sustain the weight loss transformation. But like I said, the foods we use are quite filling to ensure that you are never feeling hungry and that you always feel, for the most part, satiated, and any hunger you may experience is minimal, and we can easily fix it if hunger becomes an issue for you. So again, like I said, a good coach will be able to fix all those problems. So if you're considering myself or any other coach, just make sure you check their testimonials on their website, their social media, wherever else they may be posting it. Mine are in my story highlights on my Instagram, as well as I will post them on the grid periodically as well, even though they don't get a whole lot of views because people like to see the quick reels as opposed to a 30-minute testimonial on Instagram. I know that people who hop on consultation with us often tell us, hey, I watched all your testimonials. I know this is the right fit for me. You've helped so many people who are in the same position I am. Let's do this. And I'm like, perfect. And I take them through a consultation, or my team does, and it's amazing. So as you can see in all of our interviews, we know how to fix all these issues when they've come up for our clients. So again, if we're somebody you're considering, certainly check out our interviews, and it'll give you a lot of confidence that you are indeed in the right place, inshallah. So back to the training today. If you have a proper meal plan, do you not need to track? Correct. If you have a coach set up a meal plan for you and they're a good coach, they're experienced, they know what they're doing, then obviously they're going to set up a meal plan that doesn't require you to track. But I still suggest that if you're serious about getting as much out of the transformation as possible, not just results, but knowledge, that you take the 2 minutes a day that it takes to track. Okay, tracking, it's a pain for sure. I don't track, like 80% of the time I don't track. But when I start a new phase with my nutrition, in order to build those new habits and get myself dialed in, especially on like a contest prep type thing, I will track my calories for a couple weeks to make sure that I'm eating the exact amount I need to guarantee my results until it becomes a habit and it becomes like clockwork. And I just have my rotation of recipes and flavors and whatnot. And then it's just very easy to stick to and easy to prep in like 1 to 2 hours a week on the weekend, right? But of course, the tracking is actually a lot easier. Like if you're just one of these people who just randomly eats a bunch of stuff and then tracks it and tries to fit in your calories at the end of the day, then of course it's going to be a lot harder than if you have a meal plan that's already planned out for you and then the tracking is easy and the random variables you're fitting in are more minimal versus somebody who's just on the completely flexible if it fits your macros diet, which can work for a lot of people. But what I've noticed with myself at least and with many people we've spoken to is that there was just too little structure on that to where by the end of the day, they're like behind on their protein by like 100 grams, and you're not going to be able to cram 100 grams of protein in a single hour, or they only have 50 calories left but they still have to hit 100 more grams of protein. Well, that's impossible, so now you're kind of screwed and then you lose motivation. It just sucks. Versus if you have a plan where you already know that the first 200 grams of protein you need to eat that day, if you're somebody who needs to eat 200 grams of protein a day, which a lot of people don't, but a lot of people do, and the first 2,000 calories of your caloric allowance have already been covered by the foods that you've prepped, and then you have another 500 calories of room to eat if you're on a 2,500 calorie diet, and you maybe have another 25 grams of protein you need to hit. You're like, cool, what snack can I have that has 500 calories and 25 grams of protein? Well, I could eat some Greek yogurt and put some honey and berries and maybe even have a chocolate bar on the side or some chips, and it'll actually fit it. Now, usually I don't recommend eating chocolate and chips, not because it doesn't fit your macros, because in that scenario it would, but just because I don't want you to feel like junk. And if you're eating chocolate and chips all the time, then you're going to feel pretty bloated and tired because you're eating a bunch of junk, right? And that's not what we want. So anyways, the point being, take 2 minutes a day to track your food. I'm not going to make it mandatory if you work with me. However, I do still recommend it so you can get the most out of your investment. And of course, with our meal plans, what we do is we factor in the foods that you like and are accustomed to. And that makes it easier to track as well. And if you do track, you're going to learn more about how your body works, which is going to help you to gain more knowledge from your transformation, whether you're doing it with a coach or on your own. Which on your own, it's completely required, because if you don't do it on your own, you're completely operating in the dark. And like I said, even if you're working with a coach, whether it's me or somebody else, you should still track your food so you learn more and get more out of it, which will also help you to keep it off long term without having to track though, because you learn exactly like what 500 calories looks like, what 50 grams of proteins looks like. And you have that knowledge for the rest of your life, to where you're never going to be like, how many grams of protein is in a chicken breast? You're like, oh, this chicken breast looks about 8 ounces. That's 50 grams of protein based on the tracking I did for like 2-3 weeks back when I lost, that 50 pounds 5 years ago and kept it off for the last 5 years or 10 years or 15 years. You now have that knowledge for life. Makes sense? And in Islam, we're always supposed to seek our ilm. And nobody can acquire ilm, knowledge, without the permission of Allah. But there's a reason why you're watching this video right now. Allah put it in front of you, and Allah decreed that you're watching this video right now. So, if you're watching my content, then I hope that you are acquiring that knowledge, and Allah has blessed you by giving me the knowledge to share with you, and He's blessed me, and He's blessed you by giving you the access to this knowledge by discovering it, right? Alhamdulillah. So, and that's why I always say Alhamdulillah, because it means all praise is due to Allah for everything He has orchestrated and set up for us in our lives to make us successful in the different areas that we succeed and that we're going to succeed, inshallah. So, again, if you're doing this on your own, you can use the meal plan templates that I covered in my last video and in many of actually my other videos, and you'll just need to kind of customize it to yourself using, metabolism calculator or some of the protocols I shared in the last video on how to calculate your metabolism that are more accurate than the typical metabolism calculator, okay? But I'm not going to dive too deep into that today because we're already 30 plus minutes into this video. And like I said, the last video is 2 hours long, and a lot of people complained it was too long and detailed. Actually, I think it was only one person, but there was a couple other people who were saying like I talked too fast because I was trying to cram too much info into one thing. And I think that part of that's just because I get excited and I think really fast and I talk really fast, alhamdulillah. I suppose it's a gift and a curse, but whatever. It is who I am, so I'm going to embrace it. But it was hard to talk super fast for almost 2 hours straight in the middle of the night during Ramadan on the last video, and I'm actually, fasting right now, so in that one I wasn't even fasting, it was just the middle of the night and I had already eaten, but yeah, so we'll make it through this one fast. We're going to keep it a little simpler, but I have a lot of videos with specific meal plan templates, and of course there is a percentage of people who watch my videos who would rather just pay us to have to set it up for you and coach you and take you through this transformation instead of trying to figure it out on your own from our free stuff. And of course, there is a large percentage of people who cannot afford to hire a coach or to hire us specifically, but they still benefit from this free knowledge. So whether you're one of those people who wants to just hire us to handle this for you, or whether you're somebody who wants to go through our free content and all of our free material out there and figure it out for yourself, my goal is to make this information accessible to the Ummah for free online, as well as to take those who want to invest in themselves and have the means and the luxury of being able to invest in themselves and give them a one-of-a-kind experience out of the Modern Muslim Method program, which I'll attach more info in the description below, inshallah, here on YouTube. And on Instagram, you can comment below with the word coaching if you want to learn more. But we'll briefly review the 1,000 calorie deficit. But again, I have a very OCD, thorough, detailed breakdown in my last video on how to lose fat after Ramadan and Eid. So you can do that. And like I said, there are some people who might be listening to this right now. Maybe you're driving to work, maybe you're working out, or you're working right now, and maybe you work a ton of hours. You don't have time for all the free stuff, and you just want to pay us to handle it because you're making bank, working a lot. Again, like I said, I'll attach the link below. At the time I was making these slides, our consultation times were already booked up, but I believe we actually have some open right now if they haven't already been filled. And we do open up new ones per week. So even if you see nothing open on the calendar, you can always check back in a couple days. And my consultants and I would have opened up more spots as time goes on, and we're able to open up more spots. So anyways, not to go on too long of a tangent with that. So in order to get into a deficit, like I said in the last video, don't go below your BMR, your basal metabolic rate. I'm going to show you how to calculate that, and I'm going to show you on the next slide. And in the last video, I go very in depth into like how to calculate it and how to truly accurately figure out exactly what your BMR is beyond the theoretical calculators. But if you go below your basal metabolic rate, your body starts to notice that you're eating a very low amount of calories, and your body starts to adapt because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us to be very resilient creatures where we can be in the desert with no food, no water, and still survive for a period of time, right? And that's ultimately how a lot of our ancestors that Allah put through those trials ended up surviving. So your body, as Allah has designed it, is able to suppress its energy levels and produce less heat, conserve your energy levels, conserve calories, and down-regulate your metabolic rate to reduce the amount of calories you burn per day and give you a longer time of survival in a calorically starved or a period of famine or starvation, right? So your body is able to do that. Your body has that capability. SubhanAllah is a survival mechanism. Allah has created us that way. And if you've ever noticed that your body temperature went down, you felt cold and tired during Ramadan or while fasting, maybe one of the Sunnah fasts or just the whole month of Ramadan, or maybe when you did a low-calorie crash diet in the past, you just felt really tired, couldn't focus, cold, all that stuff. And of course, when that happens, it negatively affects your work, your relationships, your prayers, your overall quality of life. This is why, is because the metabolism has the ability to suppress itself as a survival mechanism, which is disadvantageous when we're trying to burn calories and lose body fat and do it in a sustainable way that benefits our other areas of life, as we've talked about at length in this video. So on the next slide, I'm going to go through an example of basal metabolic rate, and then as this presentation continues, we're going to go through how to solve it so you can lose weight eating more food, feeling good, noticing that your body temperature is actually up because your body's producing more heat, because you're eating foods like complex carbs, lean proteins, keeping the fats low so you're still in a deficit, that are going to increase your body temperature and your energy levels and allow you to burn more fat, have more energy, and ultimately be more successful. And I cover that a little more in depth in the last video too, why complex carbs and lean proteins are superior to a high fat diet when it comes to fat loss for the majority of people. So let's give an example of what the theoretical basal metabolic rate calculation would be for a man who's 40 years old, 240 pounds, 5'9", and is sedentary. So based on this calculation, it bolds the word sedentary because it's assuming that this man burns about 400 calories a day from his activity levels if he's sedentary, and it assumes that he's burning 1,000 calories if he exercises moderately. However, these numbers are completely arbitrary because the only number I care about on this calculation, to where I could even chop these down here, is 1,989 calories per day is his estimated basal metabolic rate. Now, this could be 10 to 15% slower if he's faced metabolic adaptation on a restrictive diet in the past, or maybe if he's coming off of Ramadan or the Sunnah fast and Shawwal or whatever it may be, and he never did a protocol to speed up his metabolism. It could be 10 to 15% slower than this. It could be 10 to 15% faster than this if he's done a metabolic optimization protocol. He just came off a muscle growth phase. He has a naturally fast metabolism. He's eating an insane amount of calories right now and just eating junk food to where his metabolism could actually be faster as an adaptation, even if what he's eating is junk, which is part of why people who are really overweight lose weight pretty quickly, because they're eating so much junk that it's really easy to get them in a deficit, and their metabolism is often pretty fast despite the fact that they're not healthy, okay? But this is all I care about. This is the number that I care about. However, we factor in their activity levels, everything else, and somebody might have a personality where they're just really active, they enjoy being outdoors, they talk really fast, they move really fast, they can't sit still, they hate sitting down. You also might have somebody who has a very low-key personality and they prefer to chill and lay in bed and watch TV and sleep in and sit at a desk, where their personality also is a reason why their activity levels burn less calories per day. And I didn't put it in the slides here, but what I'll do is I'll come off the screen share for a second. I'll just quickly break down. There are 4 factors that account for your metabolism, okay? So there's your basal metabolic rate, which we have on the calculation when I open up the slides again. There's thermic effective food, which is how many calories your body uses while utilizing the actual foods that you're eating. And so, you know, for instance, with proteins, every calorie of protein, or sorry, every calorie, or every 100 calories, or every whatever amount of protein that you eat, your body is going to utilize 25% of the calories in that protein in the process of, you know, breaking down and assimilating that protein, to where the protein calories, it's not that they don't count, but they only count 75%. So if you eat 1,000 calories of protein a day, which is 250 grams of protein a day, which for many people is excessive and inappropriate, but for many people it's the right amount, such as for myself, I need at least 250 grams of protein a day. Well, that's 1,000 calories, because every gram of protein is 4 calories, but 25% of that is now factored into our total daily energy expenditure. So that's an extra 250 calories you're burning per day just by eating 250 grams of protein. So there you go. It's rough calculation. Same thing when you eat complex carbs, you're going to notice you have way more energy cognitively, physically, and your body temperature goes up, versus when you're on a low carb diet, you're actually a lot more prone to feeling really cold and tired, right? Now, some people get hungrier if they're on a higher carb diet, so we might need to use some carb manipulation like carb backloading, or, you know, lower carbs or whatever. And some people notice that they have more energy on a higher fat diet, but again, those people are the carb one is more common, but the fat one is more rare. But we can always adjust these things for the individual, right? And then the last thing I wanted to, so there's basal metabolic rate, there's thermic effective food, there's non-exercise activated thermogenesis, which is just your activity levels, like walking around, walking to the fridge, walking to the bus stop, walking to your car, walking to the car dealership, you know, taking your kids to school, playing with your kids, going on a walk with your wife, you know, or your husband, or, you know, even intimacy with your partner actually counts as, you know, non-exercise activated thermogenesis. No matter how high your heart rate gets, and no matter how many calories you burn, or how much you sweat, you are burning calories, but it would be considered non-exercise activated thermogenesis, because it's not a specific exercise thing that is devoted to exercise and like burning calories. Versus when you go to the gym to do cardio or lifting, it would be considered exercise activated thermogenesis as opposed to non-exercise activated thermogenesis. So again, when you're playing with your kids, you're burning calories. When you're praying, your intention is to do it for the sake of Allah, but you are burning a little bit of calories. Again, the amount of calories you burn while praying is very little, but like, you know, again, you're burning calories throughout the whole day. Even me, cognitively thinking as I present this to you, moving my hands, even though I'm seated, if I was standing, it would be a little bit better. But again, this is all burning calories, and this is counting as my non-exercise activated thermogenesis. So when you're working, right? Even chess players burn a ton of calories, which is kind of crazy when they're playing chess. And no, chess is not haram as long as you don't bet on it. Betting is haram. Gambling is haram. But I always have people comment below my thing and say, is chess haram? No, betting is haram. So if you bet on anything, it's haram. Horse racing is not haram, but if you bet on horse racing, it's haram because gambling is haram. But anyways, so the point being, let's dive back in. So those are the 4 factors that influence your or that make up your total daily energy expenditure: are basal metabolic rate, thermic effective food, exercise activated thermogenesis, and non-exercise activated thermogenesis. So again, this is things that all need to be accounted for. And so this calculator only tells us basal metabolic rate, but it doesn't factor in our diet. It doesn't factor how many calories we're actually burning from our activity levels, and it doesn't factor in how many calories we're burning from exercise activated thermogenesis either, right? So that's why I just throw these numbers away, because moderate exercise is subjective. Moderate exercise to somebody who's never worked out before in their life could only be 300 calories, versus moderate exercise for a professional athlete could be, you know, over 1,500 calories, right? So it's too subjective for this to even be relevant, which is why this is the only number from this calculation I use. So let's round up that number, 1989 to 2,000, just to make it very easy, okay? If we want to get in a 1,000 calorie deficit, tell me this: is the best thing for this person to do to eat only 1,000 calories a day and starve themselves? No, because then their metabolic rate is going to slow down. Or is it to burn 1,000 more calories per day? Now, that might sound like a lot, but I'm going to explain. I'm going to break it down for you. So if the lowest I'd ever want this person to go is 2,000 calories, right? Now, I have had some exceptions to the rule. I actually had a man who very closely fit the exact specifications that I put on the previous slide here. And he just didn't have a big appetite. Like, I gave him, you know, we were building out his diet plan. By the time I got to 1,500 calories worth of his diet plan, he was like, hey, you know what? This is already going to be too much food for me. And I was like, wow, okay. Guess what? This guy lost 20 pounds in 9 weeks. Mashallah, it's crazy. And then he hit a plateau because his metabolism eventually adapted to the excessively low amount of calories. So we had to do a reverse dieting phase, and then we're able to keep losing more weight. But we had to do that reverse diet phase, which is a part of the process. It goes beyond what we're talking about today. But actually, in the program info video below for both the sisters and the brothers, I actually talk about how we transition you off a diet to speed your metabolism back up. I talk about it very briefly, and I have a couple other videos, like on my YouTube. I have the reverse dieting video, which talks about that as well. Actually, that one goes a lot more in depth in it. I just realized that we have a 45-minute video on exactly how to break through a plateau through reverse dieting. So definitely check that one out. And I think I have a plateau breaker video too. It didn't get a whole lot of views, but it's there on my YouTube, which is actually an excellent video on, like, I think the 9 or 10 factors that we use. It's a 9 or 10 point checklist that we use with our clients when they hit a plateau to figure out exactly what caused the plateau between both sustainability, quality of life, and their actual metabolism and strategy to actually break through that plateau to ensure our clients never get stuck in a plateau. So anyways, what I would do is I would put 2,000 calories for this individual, right? Which is usually 40% calories from protein, 40% from carbs, only 20% from fats. There is and that's for most people, smaller percentage of people, sometimes doing higher fats, lower carbs work. Some people need more protein, such as myself, and less fat actually works really well for me. And I don't get the weird, like, libido reducing side effects that some people do when they go too low in fats. I can actually eat super low fat and, get really crazy results, but not actually have it affect my libido, subhanAllah. And alhamdulillah, it's a blessing. So, again, the reason why I like the carbs higher is that it helps my energy levels stay optimized. It helps clients' energy levels stay optimized. It's way better than, like, these low carb diets that kill your energy levels for most people. Now, once we got him to 2,000, then I would just get him burning 1,000 calories per day between lifting, thermic effective food, cardio, and then activity levels. So here is where cardio is sort of an interchangeable term, because if we want to measure cardio by, like, okay, do 20 minutes of this type of cardio, and that's how we produce a deficit, great. Okay, cool. Do 300 calories of this type of cardio, cool. We're producing a calculated deficit. That's one way that some people like to do it. The people who just say, hey, I just want to go to the gym, knock out my lifting and my cardio together, boom. Or, hey, I want to go to the gym twice a day. I'll do my lifting at this point. I want to do my cardio at this point, no problem. Or people who are like, hey, give me a calorie goal for the walk. Boom, we can do that if you have a smart tracker like an Apple Watch, which is not 100% accurate, but it's a good ballpark. However, some people are like, oh man, I don't want to do any cardio at all. Say, great, cool. Wear a smart tracker like an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Garmin, and let's just track your steps. And if at the end of the day you only hit 8,000 steps, go for a 20-minute walk so you hit 10,000, right? Or whatever target we have set for them. And that's psychologically the way that some people prefer to do it. So that could count as, like, non-exercise activated thermogenesis, energy levels, right? If you want to just wear your watch whenever you do anything and not have to do cardio at all, even though you are still hitting the same amount of calories burned through your step count as if you're doing cardio, versus some people are just like, hey, give me an amount of cardio to do. This is what I prefer. So it depends on the person. But yeah, like I said, cardio could be sports, step count, under the desk treadmill, which I actually have right here. Traditional cardio like elliptical machines, running outside or on a treadmill, row machine, swimming, as long as you have no injuries that make these types of cardio dangerous for you. Like, obviously, if you have bad knees, probably don't want you running, especially if you're like, 240 plus pounds. I don't want you running on bad knees, or even any knees for that matter. I mean, there are, of course, some people who run the Boston Marathon who are quite overweight, but and again, a lot of that could either be bad diet, slow metabolism, lack of muscle mass. I would say the most likely scenario is just bad diet. They're eating too many calories or getting hungry after all that running. And that's another thing to factor in when it comes to cardio is, do you get hungry when you do excessive amounts of cardio? Like, I have a guy who was doing a lot of cardio for a while, but he started to notice it just made him way too hungry, and it made it impossible to stick in a deficit. And I've actually had a lot of people who had similar scenarios. Just one guy in particular, because I was just talking to him yesterday, came to mind, right? So these are all things to account for and adjust over time to ensure you're still losing weight. So see, it's hard for me to, we're coming up on an hour, so I'm gonna try to make this, get through this because I'm going on too many tangents. But if we burn 1,000 calories per day, does that sound like a lot? Okay. And how do you burn it? Okay. Well, it is actually the only way to lose 2 pounds a week. But I think what I meant by that, I was like, why did I say it's the only way to lose 2 pounds a week? What I meant is that, yes, physiologically, you have to be in a 1,000 calorie deficit per day in order to lose 2 pounds a week. But is burning that many calories by just doing a lot of activity levels and increasing your metabolism the only way to lose 2 pounds a week? No, it's not. But actually, it's not that bad, because what that might look like is, again, 10-minute walk after each meal, or 30 minutes of cardio at some other point, or for some people it might be more, for some people it might be less, eating a high protein diet, doing your lifting, increasing your metabolism by gaining muscle. So many things that we can do to get you into a 1,000 calorie deficit. And it doesn't have to be 1,000 calories on Apple Watch, because hitting 1,000 calories on Apple Watch takes consistent effort every single day. And one thing we do with our clients is, I'll either have them compete with me on Apple Watch or I'll have them compete with each other or both. And it actually makes it very easy to hit 10,000 steps, 1,000 calories. Like actually most of the sisters in our sisters program, which is crazy, are hitting 1,000 steps a day. Even the ones who work full-time jobs, have businesses, have a bunch of kids, are still making it happen. It actually really blows my mind because our coach, Tala, inside of the women's program is really good at motivating people and getting everybody motivated on their steps every day. And also the women in the program motivate each other. It's absolutely amazing. In the men's program, we have some crazy high achievers who do like 15K a day, no problem, who will inspire each other. I had, again, 2 brothers who like for a 6-month period both hit 15,000 steps a day because they just kept motivating each other. We also have some silent killers in the men's program who don't even check in with the group that much, but then they're just silently burning 15,000 calories, not 15,000 calories, doing 15,000 steps a day on their own. And then you have the guys who engage frequently, who are sharing their wins, their losses, but also getting a lot of steps. So it depends on the person. Then we also have a lot of guys who are like, hey, just give me a calorie target. I don't care about the steps. Just give me a calorie target, and that could work too. There's many different ways to skin a cat, so to speak. But again, some people, even without hitting 1,000 on the thing, are going to lose 2 to 3 pounds a day per week. Or sorry, 2 to 3 pounds per week. That sounded really, you can tell I'm fasting and I've been talking for a while. But Apple Watch isn't 100% accurate. BMR calculators aren't 100% accurate. And some people's metabolisms do respond extremely well to lifting weights and eating a diet high in complex carbs and lean proteins. And like I said, thermic effective food burns 25% of those protein calories, which is going to increase it by 250. So now you only have 750 left to burn if you're eating, 250 grams of protein a day like I am, right? So that's part of my deficit, at least, because I eat at least 250 grams of protein a day. But then the complex carbs also increase your energy. They also increase your activity levels. Like I notice myself pacing around the house, having tons of energy when I'm eating a ton of carbs, which is part of why fasting, I'm not getting that steady intake of carbs is not the most ideal protocol for me. But for some people, they actually have more energy when they're intermittent fasting, which is crazy. I have 2 clients, and ironically, both of them are Egyptian. And I'm sure I've definitely had other clients, but there are 2 people who instantly come to mind. One of whom I actually have a call with in about an hour, roughly. So that's why I got to wrap this thing up. But he had more energy while fasting, so it's an incredible protocol. And the other Egyptian brother, he's actually on our page, on our testimonial before after page, 55 pounds, and went from like being like an average guy with a belly, looks like a guy who's on the computer a lot, to being shredded, looking like a fitness model, mashallah, 55 pounds later. Okay, I believe from 210 down to 155. And mashallah, he loves fasting. He's like, yeah, that energy and focus you get while fasting, I love it. I'm like, subhanallah, these guys were built to fast, man. Those Egyptians are built different, mashallah. But again, for those of us who don't respond well to fasting, such as myself, where our energy levels, no matter how good our protocol is on fasting, are not as good as they'd be if I was getting a steady intake of complex carbs throughout the day. It's not a viable protocol. But again, for some people, because of their lifestyle and how busy they are in the morning, their energy levels. I actually even knew an Asian guy who did really well in intermittent fasting, had way more energy. Again, it can work really well. So it just depends on the person. But yeah, regardless, whether you're genetically blessed or not, if you just want to burn 500 calories a day, you can still lose on average 1 pound of fat per week. If you're genetically blessed, your metabolism ramps up super fast, and you may only be on a 500 calorie deficit on paper. You're only burning 500 calories on Apple Watch, eating at maintenance. You might actually end up losing 2 to 3 pounds a week because of the thermic effect of food. You're gaining muscle, your metabolism ramping up, you're getting the afterburner effect from your training intensity. That's another huge one to consider, which is part of why people like HIIT. But HIIT plus lifting is very hard to recover from if you work a full-time job, you have kids, and sometimes your kids might interrupt your sleep, especially if they're young. So again, it's not always realistic, and especially people in their 40s. HIIT is very delicate balance because you got to be very mindful of your cortisol, your stress levels. But the lifting itself, even 3-4 times a week, is going to give you a similar effect to HIIT, where it increases your metabolism even as you're just gaining the muscle, even as you're just recovering, in addition to building the muscle itself, which is kind of like more of a rental property. The more muscle you have in your frame, it's a rental property paying you every month, and all you got to do is maintain it, right? Versus when you actually lift, the process of recovery does utilize calories, which also helps you to get more in deficit, which is part of why a lot of people will lose beyond the projected rate of what their calorie deficit is on paper. I'm just giving you guys conservative numbers today so you can guarantee your results, but we often see people exceed it, but we also sometimes people have people who their metabolism can adapt very efficiently, which is a great survival mechanism for back in the day, right? Where maybe if their ancestors had starvation periods, they survived, but unfortunately it makes it frustratingly harder to lose weight in the modern day, but it's still possible. You just have to adjust expectations and have a protocol that's sustainable enough for you to stick to it for a longer period of time. So I know that this was supposed to just be about wedding prep, but I've made it more generally about fat loss, but I want you guys to understand that. And this is probably going to end up being over an hour, so I apologize, guys. And you guys knew that from the beginning here on YouTube because you're like, hey, you know what? This video does not say 1 hour, so this guy's full of it. He thinks he can get it done in an hour, but obviously not. Anyways, if you notice that you could lose fat fast in the past, that's a tongue twister. Try saying that 10 times fast. Like I said on the previous slide, As long as there's no metabolic damage, you could probably lose weight at faster than the projected rate. And this may explain why you have in the past lost fat faster than the projected rate of what you were doing, whether it was genetics, whether it was building muscle, whether it was an afterburner effect. I mean, thermic effect of food. There's so many different factors. So consider all of those. So just to give some examples, we've had guys in their 40s who started at 160 and lost 20 pounds in 3 months. And I've had guys exactly the same, start in their 40s at 160 pounds and lost 20 pounds. It took them twice as long, 6 months, right? I've had guys in their 20s and 30s who started in the low 200s and lost 20 pounds in 8 to 10 weeks. I've had guys who started in the low 200s, same age range, and it took 4 months, okay? I've had guys get a six-pack in 90 days. One of them was actually 40 years old, which is crazy, 27 pounds in 90 days at 44, okay, in his 40s, got a six-pack, and he's on my testimonial page too, one of the before-after that says 44-year-old father of two and business owner, right? He didn't want to share his name, but it's okay. We still got his thing on there, which is awesome, and I appreciate him for letting us share the pictures. And some of us needed a lot longer. I've had guys in their 40s who got a six-pack, right? Some of them it took 90 days, like the one I just mentioned. Others it took 9 months. Like if you go actually to my Instagram, one of the pinned posts at the top, because one of my favorite interviews and just overall transformations is Brother Muhsin. And you can see the cover photo. He's 40 years old, 2 kids, works, he's a professional, desk-bound professional, mind you, sitting in front of a desk. And subhanAllah, over the first 9 months that we worked together, he got a six-pack, mashallah. I've had women in the mid-200s, in their 30s, who lost 20 pounds in 90 days, and I've had women who lost 40 pounds in the same time frame who started below 200 pounds, right? We've had clients in the upper 200s or low 300s who lost 20 to 30 pounds in the first month alone, okay? So everybody's different, but the starting point is also relevant. So again, for more testimonial interviews before or after, see my website, link above is on IG, and I'll put in the description here on YouTube as well. So quickly, just to make sure you're in a deficit, so all of that above is we need to make sure you're in a deficit. Now, so if you're watching this right now, as you may have gotten from the beginning of the video, and I wanted to hit it in the beginning of the video because I know not everybody's going to watch a whole hour video, but all we need to do is hit those 4 pillars, okay? And we're going to dive into the last pillar right now, but those first 3 pillars are the logistics behind how to create a deficit. And so now what we need to do is we need to reduce the resistance to sticking to it by making it sustainable using the delicious recipes and easy meal prep tips that I talk about in my other videos, and also increase the motivation that you have to actually stick to it. So that your reason is greater than your resistance, which is going to cause you to take more action and therefore be more successful, inshallah, provided the actions you're taking are proper and correct, right? A wedding is a very exciting short-term motivator, but I encourage you to stack that with the other short-term motivators and most importantly, some long-term motivators, which is going to take us into what I call the new and improved 7 whys. I previously in the last video shared the 5 whys, but today we're going to share the 7 whys because there are 2 additional whys that, I realized are a common theme that come up on consultation calls. So I wanted to help you guys get motivated using all 5 of these to help you be more successful. So as we talk about, there's the classic 5 whys, and then there's the additional 2. So the 7 whys total. So the first why, the first reason why people become emotionally invested, emotionally moved to get out of their comfort zone and be successful and take action and be the healthy version of themselves is just that, health. So whether it's just general health where someone's like, hey, you know what, I just want to generally be healthy, I feel unhealthy and I want to be healthy, or whether it's more specifics, which are even better, like, hey, heart attacks in the family, or heart disease in the family, stroke, diabetes, high cholesterol, hypertension. I had a guy whose brother had a stroke, and may Allah have mercy on him and make it easy for his family, but that was the reason that motivated the younger brother who I worked with to lose the weight and get in shape. And actually, ironically, it was last summer and he also had a wedding coming up, but the longer term motivation for him, that's super ironic that actually this is the wedding video and he happened to come to my mind, subhanAllah. But the bigger, deeper reason, longer term for him to dial in his health and be healthy was indeed the fact that his older brother had had a stroke. And again, please say dua for their family and for all the Muslims out there who are struggling with any of these things or whose families have. May Allah give them all shifa and have mercy on them and make it easy. Ameen. So the purpose of the whys, though, is not to brush over them, but actually to go deeper into them and get uncomfortable with the reality that we're headed towards. So so there's 2 ways to look at that. You can say, hey, my older brother had a stroke, ha ha ha, hopefully I don't have one, ha ha ha. That's not going to do anything for you. That's just minimizing, and that's just going to lead to more failure and more lack of motivation and taking action and more denial and living in delusion that you're actually at risk of a stroke. Rather, to confront the cold, hard reality in front of you, even though it's uncomfortable, it's not being pessimistic or ungrateful. You're still grateful to Allah and still optimistic in Allah's plan. So it's not a form of ingratitude, because we're diving deep into the negative, scary, painful consequences of having a stroke to motivate us to treat our body better for the sake of Allah and be healthier and be a role model to our community. And that was his third reason, this particular individual I'm thinking of, who I'm not going to name because I haven't gotten his permission. But his third reason that he stacked on top of this was want to be a role model, not just for his kids and his wife and his family, but actually for his cousins and all of the younger like nephews and nieces who look up to him. And because he's kind of like the cool uncle, because he's the youngest brother of like all of his siblings. So for him, he's kind of like that cool uncle who all the cousins relate with, and he wanted to show them. And guess what? When he showed up to that wedding, people noticed. His family noticed, his cousins noticed, his nieces and nephews noticed, and guess what? He was able to leverage that to help inspire them as well. In addition to that, this man also leads 200 plus employees. It's not the other one who you see on my page. That guy's a little younger, who has like 200, 300 plus employees at the time that we did his before after. But there's a different interview who didn't want to do an interview, and that's totally fine. But he was still a great member of our community and highly valued member of our community, even though it's private, his success, mashallah. So the point being, he has 200 employees who he wants to lead more effectively. So you see how the stack of reasons, it wasn't just like, hey, I want to get fit for a wedding. We went deeper into that. So when he told me that's why he's on this call today, I said, great. So after I got clear on exactly what he needs as far as the plan, I said, let's go deeper into your whys, bro, to help address some of those motivation and consistency issues you've been having. And sure enough, guess what? The deeper reasons was the stroke that his brother had, which gave him enough fear to finally do something about it after he'd been procrastinating on taking care of his fitness for many years, right? And then we stacked it further to make sure he had further consistency once he got out of that pain of being afraid of his health consequences. And it was about leading his family, leading his employees, and being the best full potential version of himself, which ties in with additional 2 reasons right here. So these are all interconnected. Reaching your full potential, having better health. For him, actually his energy levels were huge too. Within a couple of days, he saw his energy levels were way better, and he's like, dude, now I love this diet. I hated the idea of being on a diet, but now that I'm on your diet, I love it because I have more energy and it's helping me at work, right? We didn't even talk about that on his consultation, I don't think, but it was one of the big benefits he noticed and mentioned to me every single week on the group call when we were talking about his wins. Now, confidence, he's already a very confident guy, mashallah. So even despite the fact that his fitness wasn't the best when we started, as far as his physique, he still had the confidence. Mental health, the guy, he's a rock, he's got, a big team, a big family, kids, all that stuff, but he still, mashallah, keeps his mental health and his deen dialed in. So these were not huge urgent motivators for him, but certainly the health was, and then wanted to reach his full potential and be the best leader he could be. Frustration wasn't one for him because he'd always struggled to take action in the past. I mean, he'd done some stuff in the past. He'd worked with a couple of trainers, but nothing crazy. But he wasn't one of these people who had truly been like really going all in, trying for so many years and been frustrated. Versus the other guy who I spoke to yesterday, who was doing a bunch of cardio, he was one of those people who was frustrated that he had been doing it for so long that no matter how long it was going to take, he was committed to doing it the right way. And alhamdulillah, he's already lost. He went down from 185 to 163, which is awesome. So that's like 22 pounds, mashallah. So, Allah Mubarak. So point being, the 5 whys, right? And this video is officially over an hour now. But health, that's a huge one. So if you have specific health issues in your family, reflect on them and reflect on the consequences, not just on you, if you continue going down the way that you're going, but who it's going to affect. And think, what of those consequences is the worst one that is going to emotionally move you and finally give you the inspiration to change and get out of your comfort zone and finally break through. You got to find a consequence that's so uncomfortable that it's even more uncomfortable than the pain of change. And that is when you will finally take action, is when the pain of change is not as painful as the pain of staying the same, the pain of the path that you're going down. That's going to give you success in your motivation, inshallah. Now, same thing with energy, right? We can relate energy to work. I've had a lot of people tell me, hey, you know what? I can't even focus. I've been growing and scaling this company for so long, but I've gotten so overweight that I can't even focus anymore. And I'm really struggling to show up to work and perform at work and scale my business and lead my team effectively. Well, that's huge because now you're getting paid to get in shape. Because when you get in shape, you're no longer, missing out on making hundreds of thousands or millions more dollars that you could be making in your business and infinite impact on all the customers who you're serving and their families that you're benefiting. Instead of leaving all that on the table, you're getting out there and making it happen, making more money for your family, for your community, donating it to charity, building orphanages, helping out the masjid, and of course, getting your clients or your customers great results and great satisfaction with your product and making way more money. You're getting paid to get fit. So that's a huge motivator that a lot of businessmen and also business owners, female business owners, including one of our female clients who has 4 kids, mashallah, and she absolutely crushed it with fixing her energy levels within a couple of weeks, which really helped her in her business, mashallah, like helped her close way more deals and really get her business actually out of a place where it wasn't that she was struggling, but she was just kind of like stagnant for 2 years to really being able to scale and getting more organized with time, which because we help with the lifestyle planning as well with the program. But either way, a lot of success. Now, same thing. Let's say you don't have the energy to play with your kids. You're passed out on the couch. I remember I've had, a doctor specifically about, I think it was actually over a year ago. It was before last Ramadan. And he told me that was his deeper motivator, is he hates the fact that every day he comes home and he's so tired from work and then he can't even be present with his kids, and he's just passed out on the couch. That was a huge reason for him to finally commit to change and actually do something about his situation. So energy can connect with so many different things. It connects with your life, your happiness, your mental health, your deen. I've had people tell me that they're winded when they're praying, which is why they wanted to fix it, because they can't be showing up to Allah the wrong way like that. So again, that ties in with deen, which is one of the 5 classic motivators, and I always save the best for last, right? Confidence. So, everybody could benefit from having more confidence. It's usually, maybe sisters who have noticed that intimacy with their husband has gone down because the attraction has gone down. But it also applies to a lot of both single men and women who feel that it's not that like, oh, I need to have a 6-pack to finally get married, but it's more like, hey, I've been neglecting my fitness and health for so long that even though I'm not like super overweight or anything, I just need to learn how to reach my full potential and treat myself with respect. I'm not carrying myself with self-respect. I'm not the best version of me, and therefore, how can I expect to have a partner, to have a wife, to have a husband who is the best version of themselves and the best spouse that I've been making dua to Allah for, right? And actually, one great dua that a lot of people who have struggled with that in the past and successfully found a great spouse, mashallah, have shared with me and many others is the dua from, I believe it was Surah Al-Qasas, from Prophet Musa alayhi salam, where he said, Rabbi inni lima anzalta ilayya min khayrin faqir. So doing that, making that dua, but then like any dua, you also need to take action. So make that dua hundreds, thousands of times, but then also, in addition to that, take action. Okay, you have to take action. If you just make dua and you sit on the couch, Allah could say kun and then kun fayakun, be and it is, right? And a magical spouse, hur al-ain rains from the sky, and all of a sudden you have a beautiful woman from heaven who wants to marry you, but that's probably not going to happen. Certainly in the afterlife that can happen, right? If you go to Jannah. But in this life, Allah has created the laws of physics and the law of cause and effect when Allah created this universe and the physical parameters by which this universe works. And so therefore, you do need to put in the work to generate a result. If you're making dua to lose weight, great. That's probably why Allah made this video come up on your feed. But now you have to get into a calorie deficit to actually make the weight loss happen, and you need to do it in a sustainable way, as I've been teaching you, so you can keep the weight off long term, and so you can stick to the process long enough to lose all the weight that you need to lose. So these are very important frameworks to understand, and it makes me feel passionate and emotionally moves me to talk about this because it makes me think of my clients, it makes me think of myself, and this is the biggest thing that I believe people are missing, because fixing your metabolism is easy. Getting a sustainable diet plan is easy. Losing weight and keeping it off is actually pretty darn easy. But finding the sufficient motivation to be committed and follow through in a day and age where we're so perpetually distracted by everything around us and nobody can focus and nobody can commit and everybody lacks the courage to commit to something, this is what's going to drive that courage and commitment to be successful, not just in fitness, but in every other area of your life. And it's going to tie in with one of the later reasons, which is being the best version of you. And the character that you build along the way when you get fit is infinitely more valuable than getting fit itself. Okay? And so it relates back to confidence, which is that, yeah, getting a 6-pack is great. You'll feel more physically confident, but who you become, the disciplined version of you, the version of you who treats themselves with respect, that everybody can see that you respect yourself because you're in shape, that is what is infinitely more attractive than a dude who just has a 6-pack or a girl who's got a toned body, is indeed an individual who carries himself with high standards and self-respect, which ultimately is what is attractive, which is ultimately what's going to be the most beneficial thing to a brother or sister struggling with finding a partner, husband or wife, and getting married. That is going to help a lot. It's going to help you be a better father or mother to your kids as long as you maintain it after you get married, which is another area where you're going to need to adjust your lifestyle to make sure that you're successful. Okay. Same thing with body image, though. Some people will come to me and they'll say, "Hey, I've been a fat kid my whole life." That's their words, not mine. I would never call somebody that, but that's what they describe themselves. Literally on their application, they say, "I've been a fat kid my whole life. I've been healthy all my life, or heavy all my life." And I can relate with that because when I was 9, I had a belly because I went to France and I was eating too many crepes and soda and bread and butter, and I got like fat. And my dad pointed out, he's like, "Munir, you're getting a belly." I was 9 years old, and I remember that really shook me. And then I tried to not eat for a couple of days, and then my dad was like, "You've already learned PE class, that doesn't work." And it's funny. So even when I was 9 years old, and actually at other points in my life, I've tried to over restrict my calories, and so I can relate with that. Not to the level of like somebody who's actually anorexic, but along those lines, I can relate, right? And so, like I said, with anybody who's suffering from a very, serious, one such as anorexia, I would recommend seeing a professional for that. Somebody who specializes in eating disorders, or psychiatrist, or not psychiatrist, psychologist. Psychiatrists will just put you on meds, but somebody who will solve the root cause of your problem, who, again, like I said previously, has the results and testimonials of other people like you who they've helped, okay? So body image, that's a huge one as well that you can drive, and oftentimes it ties in either with marriage, either with trying to get married, or with trying to continue to have intimacy and fulfill the rights of your spouse by being attractive. Or it could also be wanting to lead your kids by having an image that they can look up to, because some people tell me that they're on a call with me or my team because their kid like poked at their belly and called them fat, and that just really was a wake-up call for them. Or maybe their friends or their family were commenting. I've had people who have had their colleagues mention that they've gained weight, and that's finally the thing to get them to start. But some people, that's just the thing to get them interested in getting fit, but then it was actually one of these deeper ones that gets them motivated enough to finally commit and overcome all of their excuses and resistance. Okay. Mental health, okay? This is actually my biggest reason to train right now. I like to train every day because it gets me in the right mental state to be the most successful version of myself every day and feel positive and happy. If I don't train, I don't feel as good, so I need to get some kind of exercise, whether it's a walk, but more ideally a nice gym session, and that's ultimately my biggest reason for training, because if I don't train, my mental health suffers, and so it's very important. And again, it ties in with self-respect, happiness, lifestyle, daily processes, etc., and it's a vital part of my daily rhythm to ensure I show up to my business the best way possible, okay? Dean. So again, I've had people tell me that they were getting winded while they were praying. I've had people tell me that they wanted to go to Hajj, but they didn't have the cardio capacity to hit 20,000 steps a day, which is ultimately what people hit while they're at Hajj and Umrah. It could also be, I have a lot of people who come to me and they say that they want to respect the gift that Allah gave them in their body and their life, and the amana that Allah gave them. But I also once had a guy who, it was a kind of a combination. It was Dean and reaching his full potential. Because I was like, okay, are you motivated by a six-pack? Or are you motivated by being perpetually single? And he's like, no, I'm single. But like, I don't necessarily, but I'm pretty confident, so it doesn't matter that I don't have a six-pack yet. And the guy was already like built, he was already strong, mashallah. He just had a little bit of a belly that he wanted to lose, so he wasn't a complete beginner. But it was actually so it was not typical, because when he first filled out the application, I totally thought it was going to be like, hey, confidence because I want to get married. That was part of it, but it wasn't by any means the biggest part of it. Actually, for him, the biggest thing is, I feel like I'm coasting in life and not reaching my full potential, and because of that, I'm not reaching my full potential when it comes to my deen and in my career. And so therefore, I want to reach my full potential and set and achieve goals in my fitness so that I can do the same and build that mindset when it comes to deen. And guess what? You'll be able to actually see his interview on my page. He was able to actually, so he did the program before last Ramadan, and he was able to then make it through all 20 rakat of Taraweeh at his masjid without back pain, anything else. You'll see him on my list of testimonials on the page as well. I won't mention him by name here because I just said a lot about him in our original conversation with the whole getting married thing, but what I would recommend is checking him out. He's in the list of testimonials. So additional two motivators, reaching your full potential. We talked about it at length here. I actually had a guy who was a doctor. Now, an interesting thing I noticed with doctors is the two biggest things that seem to motivate doctors are, hey, you know what? I need to be the best version of myself so I can, give my patients the best version of me, because right now I'm struggling with my energy levels at work. That's one of the biggest and most common reasons I hear from doctors why they want to get in shape. But another big reason I hear from doctors, and from this particular guy who I'm thinking of, who also, signed up last year, was he is somebody who has always been able to set and achieve goals. He's always been the best of the best, top in his class, always reaching his full potential, high achiever. And the biggest reason why he wants to get a six-pack is so that he can reach his full potential. And the biggest reason why he doesn't want to keep going down the road that he's going right now, or previously before we actually worked together, where he was eating unhealthy, is because then he's going to end up like the rest of his family, where they're obese, high BMI, and that would be a nightmare for him, especially as a high achiever, to have such an average physique. One of my colleagues in the fitness industry, he works, he's non-Muslim, and he uses a lot of, profanity, so you probably wouldn't be a fan of his content if you're watching, my clean Islamic content. But one thing that he always says is, are you elite financially because you're driving a Lambo or whatever, but you have a corporate midsection, average midsection, and that is his ideal client, is like the CEOs, executives. That's who he surrounds himself with. That's who he always has been, and that was his story, was being, an overweight CEO/executive. And so what ended up happening is all of his clients, that's their biggest motivators. They hate being average. They hate having a corporate midsection. They want to be suprahuman is actually the name of his company. So that's what he calls it, like superhuman, right? So, guy's an amazing coach, great mindset coach, great guy as well. I know him personally. We were part of a mastermind together in 2019, and I ran into him at an event just over a year ago, and he actually spoke at that event. But I got to talk to him a little bit beforehand. He gave a great presentation. Nothing but positive things to say about the guy. It's just obviously if you're watching Islamic content and you don't want to see any profanity, he does use a lot of profanity. That's his personality. I still, have listened to his podcast and got a lot of value from his videos, and I hold nothing against him, but I just want to give you guys that warning before you check him out. So, and then that kind of ties in with reason number 7, which is a lot of people tell me, I'm just frustrated. I've been trying for so long. I've had like 10 different trainers that have done 8 to 10 different diets. I've been trying for so long, and now it's time to finally do something about it. And actually, you'll see that in one of my testimonials pinned to the top of my Instagram, Muhammad Dawood. He had done 8 to 10 diets prior, and every time he felt like binging after him, would gain all the way back. Versus now, with this, that did not happen. He was able to get shredded, peak results, without feeling like he needs to binge, with a system that's actually sustainable for the rest of his life. Check it out on the page. So again, I went really deep into this, but that's because this is actually my favorite part of the video, is talking about the deeper reasons, motivation beyond the surface level of fitness, why people want to do this. And so all 7 of those are valid core drivers. And like I said, it's often a combination. Like I shared some of the stories of some of our clients and some of the people who we've had consultations with. The key with any of this, the way you'll know you went deep enough is that you get to a point where your reason is greater than your resistance. And that is when you'll take action. When you can write it down on a piece of paper, glue it to or post-it note on your computer, or make it the background on your phone, and every time you see it, it motivates you enough that you're willing to do the work, whether it's cardio, whether it's diet, whether it's training, whether it's all 3, you're motivated to do the work because the reason is greater than the resistance, and you're finally willing to be 10 out of 10 committed to doing something about the problems and dissatisfaction that you're facing with your fitness right now, whether it's just being average, whether it's being overweight, whether it's only having 4 packs and now you want to get those last 2 and get the 6-pack, whatever plateau or point that you're trying to overcome right now, this is the process that's going to give you the emotional leverage to feel that movement within yourself and finally be willing to make a change. And so let's bring it back to the whole concept of the wedding, right? You've got the wedding. That's a nice driver where you're like, hey, I don't want my uncles and aunties to call me fat. I want to impress everybody. Maybe I have, somebody who doubted me in the past who's going to be at that wedding and I want to prove him wrong. Those are all valid motivators. And, some of those would be considered like the whole prove them wrong thing. And I'll admit that that's been some of my motivation in different areas of my life, in many areas of my life. But I've also, so that would be kind of like a lower self-motivator. It's like, hey, I just want to prove all those a-holes wrong, right? A more middle self-motivator would be like, hey, I want to be like healthy, feel good, have energy, make more money. And then a high-level motivator is like, hey, I need to be a role model for my kids. I need to be around for generations to come, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, right? I need to have the right body for the sake of Allah. I need to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. So those high, middle, and lower self-motivators are all valid motivators. And I recommend you stack multiple of each. If you can have a multiple motivator for all of them, like for me, I could share my motivation with you right now. I want to be heart healthy for years to come and just have a functional, fit body. I want to have energy levels to crush it at work and be the best I can be. I want to feel amazing about my physique and be shredded and look like, the category king, fitness expert in the Muslim fitness niche. Not just be the category king, but look like it too and be shredded, right? And be a role model for my clients. Because even if I have the knowledge, if I'm not practicing what I preach. Oh, and that's another one tying in with Deen. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that one of the most hated acts, and I'm paraphrasing this, but one of the most hated acts to Allah is to preach something but not practice it yourself. And so that was another reason why at different points during my career as a fitness coach and in my business doing fitness coaching and fitness content, where I've gotten really busy and allowed myself to fall off, lower my standards, and get fat. That was always one of my biggest motivators to lose the weight and get in shape. And alhamdulillah, now thanks to the mastermind of the modern Muslim men's movement that I have around me, it's really helped me keep things in check because I'm surrounded by Muslim brothers who are successful. So the mastermind benefits me just as much as the clients. But the point is, that was my motivator. Mental health is probably my biggest motivator right now because it gets me to take action every day, as well as energy, because the energy motivator gets me to eat healthy every day. The mental health gets me to go to the gym and work out and exercise every day. Plus Apple Watch competition, so that could be an 8th motivator's competition, and that also motivates me to hit those extra steps sometimes. So that's why you need a stack of motivators, because you'll be in different states at all the time. And so one day you might wake up and you're just in a negative state, and the only thing that gets you up is I need to prove them wrong. Whereas other days you might wake up and just be charged up with purpose, which is like I gotta do this for the sake of Allah. And then other days you'll be like, hey, I just want to make sure I have enough energy at work, so let me just make sure I eat right and I work out and I have the mental health and energy. So you need all these different motivators for all the different states you're going to be in as a human being, because our emotions change. Feelings are fleeting, so you need a strategic story, a strategic motivator, a strategic driver for every different state that you're going to find yourself in, so that you're 100% consistent 100% of the time, or at least 80 to 90% of the time, which is what's required to get 80 to 90% of the results, and pretty much 100% of the results, because 80-20 rule, right? Okay. And then Dean, obviously, I talked about doing this for the sake of Allah, being in integrity with myself, not committing a hated act in the eyes of Allah, which is to be a hypocrite and practice what I don't preach what I don't practice, right? And then reaching my full potential, that's huge. Wanting to be that best version of myself and everything that means for me. And then the frustration one, I guess there were points where I would get frustrated that I had been, overweight for a period of time. And so I would, make that change. And so ultimately, if that's you, hopefully that's enough motivation to get you to do it permanently. But when you stack it with all the other ones, hopefully that stack is enough. And if not, go deeper and truly reflect on the consequences if you don't fix it. Okay, so this video has been almost as long as the last one. I can't believe I said I was going to make it as short as I thought I'd make it. But conclusion, if you need coaching, accountability, customization, I'll drop a link to our 90-day program. If you end up deciding to book a consultation, we can discuss what's realistic based on your unique situation, both your body weight and your dieting and training history. And then whether you're looking at myself or another coach or an accountability partner even, it's important that you find an authority that you respect and that you trust. So look at the test. So obviously watch their content, make sure you actually like them and respect them, and that there's somebody whose values align with your own. And then also check out their testimonials and before afters, either myself if you're considering me or somebody else, or you can even compare and contrast, see which one makes the most sense to you, which person has the clients who are most similar to you. Mine are on my Instagram, my website if you're looking for mine, and you want to see the stories of people who are similar to you who got great results with our program. But I encourage you to vet others if you're considering others, although I know that there's nobody who does what we do at the level we do it at, so there's pretty much no comparison, especially when you look at the overview of what our program has and just the mastermind itself is an exceptional group of individuals, both the women's mastermind and the men's mastermind, which are separate, such that it's not a group I could have possibly assembled on my own. It all comes from Allah. Everything comes from Allah. This knowledge comes from Allah. The results come from Allah. The genetics, the opportunity, the internet for us to be able to connect and share this value and information with you, it all comes from Allah. And so likewise, this mastermind is something that is unique. And I know that nobody else does what we do at the level we do it at. Nobody has a Muslim mastermind of high achievers who encourage each other and are so positive on a daily basis, both from a fitness perspective, but also a business, Islamic, family perspective. I mean, subhanAllah, it's amazing. And that is what most of our clients find to be the most valuable aspect of the program in addition to the results. But regardless though, whether you do this on your own or with a coach, remember these motivators. Please share this video with anybody else who needs to lose weight and guarantee the results, including any accountability partner that you choose in the future. So guys, Jazakallah khair, thank you for your time. I almost want to apologize for making this video an hour and 20 minutes. But I know that some of you guys love my long videos because just like I was that one comment saying that the video is too long and too detailed, blah, 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 which is a funny, somewhat ungrateful sounding complaint. Most people in the comments actually said, hey, I actually love your long videos. There was even a bunch of people who responded to that comment and said, hey, you know what, this is not the right content for you to watch if you just want some short, generic ADD stuff. So I appreciate that. And if that was one of you, you're probably here watching the end of this video right now. And I want to say I appreciate you. All those of you who watch, my long ramblings. I know I ramble a lot. It's always been a superpower of mine since I was a kid, alhamdulillah. But I hope the rambling was enjoyable. And at the very least, I hope you learned something. And I hope that the energy alone was entertaining for you and gave you some value. So again, Jazakallah khair. I'll see you guys in the next video. And please comment with any questions. And I know with YouTube, I'm a little slow to respond because I spend most of my time on Instagram. I need to get YouTube on my new phone. Like my new phone, I've had it for like 6 months now, and I got Instagram on day one, but YouTube I haven't. I'm logged into my alternate account, but my modern Muslim account where I'm posting this one, I'm not logged into it, so I will need to fix that. But if you want to contact me faster, Instagram, I reply usually within a day. I usually, while I'm doing cardio, that's how I multitask, as I explained in the last video, and make the cardio go by really fast, as I answer all my DMs and emails and all that stuff while I'm doing cardio. So I'm pretty good about that. And once I get YouTube on my phone, I'll probably respond to those then too. But either way, contact me there if you need anything, and I'll drop the links that I mentioned in the thing. I think I was just the program link below. But please do check out the other videos. Like if you're interested in the reverse dieting thing, check that out. If you wanted to see a more thorough breakdown of some of these concepts, check out the Eid video. But I will stop rambling now. I'm fasting, so I shouldn't burn too much more energy or water. And I got a call coming up. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Please share with a friend. And until next time, assalamu alaikum.